sitting down, I want you to kind of ready. You sit up to it. You good?
Great.
Okay. Tell me who Steve Trash is.
In 1984, I moved to New York City, and I wanted to make it in show business. And I had this idea that I could start creating magic tricks and illusions using trash. And it was a way to distinguish myself sort of in the marketplace. And I also discovered that it gave me the freedom to sort of build a story underneath who this Steve Trash character was, because I started doing tricks with trash. It led me to this idea that I could teach people something they didn't understand about the natural world, that everything in the natural world has value, right? And I could do that really subtle, because if you think about it this way, if that guy can make magic tricks out of anything, that means that anything has value. Anything, a gum wrapper, or a rock, or a piece of, just a piece of like a piece of aluminum foil. And this to me was almost like a magical revelation. I was like, wow, I could become a better entertainer, a better magician, and I could share my love of the ecological world. And that grew into what 30 years later is what I do all the time.
Which is what?
I travel the world teaching kids about their connection to the natural world. That's at the most rudimentary level. It's about recycling, right? I teach kids, look, you can recycle, you can reuse. In fact, I can't remember the name of the book, but I think it's called Magic Words. I'm published as The Magic Words. It's a book of magic words, and it says Steve Trash's magic words are reduce, reuse, and recycle. Those are baby steps if you're going to care for the environment. But very long ago, I wrote a book back in 1996 called The Magic of Ecology, and it's a book filled with magic tricks. But I filled that book of magic tricks with character things, like how to be a real, live human being. Because I realized that doing magic tricks was a way to walk in the back door of a kid's consciousness. Oh, this guy's cool. He does interesting things. Well, we throw our pop stars, we throw our actors up these pedestals. And if a kid is going to look up to me, I want to kind of know what some of the right answers are about other stuff, important stuff that's not really show business. Because in the final analysis, show business is not really important. Now, spreading joy and laughter is really important. That's a big deal. So I sort of took a step back and I said, okay, what do I really believe and what do I really think? And I came up with this expression, respect yourself, respect others, and respect the environment. And I couldn't find a hole in any of that, Wes. There's no hole in it. It's you can't respect the environment and not respect other people. You can't respect other people and not also respect the environment. You can't destroy your own body and have respect for other people. It all sort of ties in. And I wrote this in The Magic of Ecology all those years ago, and it still informs everything that I do entertainment-wise for kids.
What is, going back a little bit, but what was one of your earliest, happiest childhood memories? First thing in your head.
It's magic related. Yeah, it's actually magic related. Well, there are two.
Answer your question.
Yeah, there are two. I have two really, really strong childhood memories. One may be a memory reinforcement because the story got told over and over again. The first is, it happened when I was about 7, and I had discovered that magic tricks were really wonderful. I liked magic tricks, and I was extremely poor at them. My mind is not constructed to be a good magician. I am not a deceptive. I'm an incredibly open person. I was an open child. I'm very excited about everything, and so I got this magic trick. It's called the ball vase. And it's a little blue vase with a little red ball inside. Now, this was transformative for me. So what you do is you open the little vase, and there's a little ball inside, and you close it, and magically the ball disappears. Okay. So I'm like 7, so I get this, and I go to my bedroom, and I'm sitting on my bed, and I open it up, and I close it, and I open it up, and I close it. And at some point in this, trying to learn this trick, that red ball fell out. But I didn't see it fall out. And so when I opened the vase, it was gone. And I knew I hadn't done a trick. And I thought for just a moment that I had actually tapped into some magic, real magic, like sort of a void in the universe. And I went, oh my goodness, that's a powerful feeling that you can share that joy, wonder, happiness with people just by creating a deception. And it's a harmless deception. Nobody gets hurt at the end of a magic show. You make somebody float, you make a ball disappear, you saw somebody in half. You still have your wallet, you still have your family, and you go home with laughter. Because you know what? The whole magic response is almost exactly the same as the laughter response. They're really similar. And we're sort of like dope dealers, right? We send this dopamine rush through your head because we're magicians. Because it's such a pleasurable thing. That's why magic tricks get associated with being only for children, is because it's such an easy pleasure to enjoy magic, you know?
Was there another thing?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and the other was, I remember my father and I. My mom passed in very recently, and my favorite song was "I Saw the Light." And like she said, my whole family said that this, like by the time I was 3, I would sit in the middle of this truck bouncing around West Texas, right, and singing "I Saw the Light" at the top of my lungs. And I'm not a particularly good singer, you know, but I can remember that fairly vividly. And again, that's one of those things, is that a reconstructed memory? But it makes me feel happy, you know, because I love that song and I love that idea that we're all chasing the light, you know, and that the light is what really actually matters, you know. So it doesn't matter whether I made it up or it's true. It's truth, whether it was true or not. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
During one of your shows, you know, the show you do so many times a year.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the entire show?
Oh, there's not even any question. My favorite part is the happiest sound in the universe is laughter. And the happiest sound in the whole universe times 10 is the laughter of children. There's not even any question about it, because I was just listening to the crew. We're wrapping up here today. And I said into the camera, do you know it's a great day when the people in the background are laughing? And what I get to do through magic tricks and just being Steve Trash is I get to spread a little bit. I mean, my mission is so huge. My mission is to be transformative. I want to be one of those characters that helps transform culture and society. But if I'm Don Quixote and I'm unable to do that, if I'm simply swinging at windmills, I know for a fact that I bring joy and that I bring laughter to children. And there's at the end of the day, that's not such a bad thing.
That's I guess what is your hope as well? Like, what do you hope that Steve Trash kind of leaves its mark, you know, in this world?
Well, I created the character Steve Trash. I wasn't born Steve Trash. My name is difficult to pronounce, it's difficult for people to write, to remember. And so I wanted to look for extensions of who I was. I just took characteristics of who I was and I made them bigger so that would be more interesting and more attractive. And very, very early on, I had an idea that I was supposed to do something. There was some contribution that I was supposed to make. And I wasn't exactly sure what that was supposed to be. I was drawn to the arts, though. I love being on stage. I love people. I like doing things. And I really like being an encourager. I mean, I would have made a decent teacher, I think. But I think what I'm shooting for is there there are people that come at the right time and the right place who allow culture to pivot. I'll never be Steve Jobs. I'll never be Winston Churchill. But your job as a human being, that's what it is. Your job as a human being is to close that gap between who you are and who you could have been, right? And my whole career has been trying to close that gap between who you are and who you could have been. And if I have the talent to make the world better, that's my job. That's my job. And so it's why I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and have woken up for 3 o'clock in the morning for the last month and worked until 9 or 10 because this was important to me. I wanted to do the best job I could. If I'm successful, then I want to know I gave it the A plus 100% effort. If I fail at what I've set out to do, then I gave it 100% effort. There's nothing else you can ask a winning team and a losing team. The losing team only loses if they didn't give 100% effort. You know, on the scoreboard they may have lost, but they may have lost to a better team. But if they gave it 100%, that is what you're required to do. And so I've built this world around, I'm really and truly trying to make the world better by adding to it what I can. I have my particular talents. Children love me. They love me whether I'm wearing Steve Trash or not, right? I'll be in a supermarket and children will be drawn to come say hello to the bald old guy in really ugly cargo pants, you know? So why not use that and bring a little happiness, a little joy? And I also think everybody is just so mad these days. They're just furious. Everyone is. And that energy is trickling to children. And that is a very, very bad energy. And we don't need to raise a generation of children that are filled with that much anger because it will tear the whole world down. And I don't have that kind of anger. People have done me wrong. People continue to do me wrong, but I don't have that kind of anger. And I want to share with children that there are lots of other ways to deal with frustration or deal with defeat. And you can do that in really fun ways. Because, I mean, who do you look up to? You look up to your parents. You look up to your teachers. And if there are lots of those, in the social proof world, you only need 3 examples to know something is true. Magicians know this. I only have to convince you 1, 2 ways that that's a normal deck of cards, right? I don't have to overprove that. And we're the same. We're the same about people's color. If we want to say that all black people are bad, you need 1 or 2 or 3 examples. By the time you get to 3, in your mind, it is proof positive. And that's true about everything. Because the mind is it's a very lazy instrument. It does not want to work for it. Because if it were just to dig a little bit deeper, there are so many exceptions to that silly rule. There's so many exceptions to that. So I think there need to be those people out there saying, no, that's ridiculous. That's stupid even. And saying that's just not the way to live a whole healthy life. And if that person saying that is someone like me, in addition to mom and dad or grandma or grandpa, or your teachers or the people that you look up to, that is in the end what you call culture. You know, that's culture.
Yeah. What is your hope for Trash TV? Let me ask you this. What is your hope for children watching Trash TV?
My hope for children watching Trash TV is the same. It's the same hope that Coca-Cola has when it advertises. I want to associate such great, amazing feelings with be good, be amazing, don't be mean, that just becomes who you are, what you do, how you live your life. Because that's all big advertisers do. They associate good feelings with good stuff. And that's pretty much all I'm shooting for.
you did a little bit of content today, but do you have, so you have outlined 11 episodes or something?
Yeah, I have 11 episodes that I know we could begin shooting tomorrow.
And what are all the Mr. Rogers themes there? So
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yeah, sure. There are all sorts of character ideas. The Mr. Rogers, because I loved Mr. Rogers. Courage. What does that look like? Disrespect. What does that look like? Being brave. What does that look like? Being compassionate. Having empathy. What do all of those things look like? Because I'm a fairly big guy, like you. I'm a fairly tall guy. I'm 6'3". I have 3 muscles. I use them. And I am, when someone I love or something I love is in danger, I will fight you and I will hurt you. But that's a last line of defense. We don't need to go there. There are lots of other ways to deal with conflict. And I think we're not teaching our kids that there are all these other choices. There are choices to look at the gap between stimulus and response. And you don't have to use stimulus and response when you're talking to kids. But you do have to teach them that they are not their emotions. If you have an emotion, it's a valid thing. It's important that you recognize that that's valid. But then expressing that to harm someone else is invalid because that's not civil. That civil society falls apart if we deregulate that part of us. It just comes to pieces. And civility, we need more civility because that's what holds, it's called civilization for a reason. We need that civility. We need to sometimes hold our tongue, and what you have to say may be the truth. But if it doesn't push the ball down the field, then you need to just stay quiet about it because you'll discover many, many times you were wrong. And now that this sort of verbal vomit has come out, it's too late. And I think children need to learn that. They need to be taught that. And sometimes I don't want to take the place of a parent. The family unit's a really good thing. It's because that's who they trust first. But if I'm the second or the third person reinforcing something their mother or father is saying, man, that's a lot of social proof. Somebody else saying these things as well. To be compassionate, to have empathy for other people, to be helpful, to be courteous even just having manners. It takes a certain amount of self-discipline to have manners. Just jump into eating. All of that has real merit. And if I can do my tiny little part to help moms and dads do that, because you can. I once, one of the happiest things, I had a friend who was walking in a mall, and I don't even know what city, and he called me and he said, I just heard a kid tell his parent, don't throw that aluminum can away. Steve Trash says you can recycle it. I was like, that makes me so happy. I'm not a fascist when it comes to taking care of the planet, right? I realize there are lots of choices we have to make, but I do like it when children listen to what I'm saying and say, this is a choice that I could be making, and it's a good choice. And it supports all of the other stuff that's happening in their life in a good direction rather than a poor direction.
Yeah. You're just about to say, I want to come alongside moms and dads.
Yes.
And then you talked about the mall. But what is it like you want to do with moms and dads?
I think that with moms and dads, what I can do is maybe find a way to reinforce or support stuff they're already saying at home. Because at a certain age, when they're 4 or 5, their world is very tiny. And all they know is what their mother and father have told them, or grandmother, grandfather, whoever their parental unit is. But they sort of fall in love with Steve Trash. And if I'm saying the same things when they grow a little older, 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 even, and that cool guy Steve Trash is still saying it. He's an old guy, but he's still kind of cool. It's going to stick better because you are ultimately most like the people that you hang around. And that can be good or that can be bad. And in a way, if I'm in your if I'm in your tablet, if I'm on your TV, you're hanging around with me, and I want that to be, helpful.
That's perfect. Is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's
With your tail, birds. Be nice, be kind, don't be.
go with yeah. Well, I don't know. You ask good questions, and I'm very long-winded, so.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. What do you call a motto or?
Your tail that you used to.
The slogan, the be good, be amazing, don't be mean. Well, I spend a lot of time driving, and I'm alone a lot. And I sort of think about the other gift that I have beyond children just liking me as a person, because I don't really have any gifts as a magician. I like magic tricks. We were talking about this earlier. I like magic tricks, but they're really just a vehicle. I'm only a magician because it's a vehicle to introduce myself to children, to who I am. Because I'm absolutely not a natural magician. I really, really had to work at that sleight of hand. And I'm just not that smart. So everything in my life is working hard. I'm rarely the smartest person in the room. But I know that you can't defeat a guy. It's really hard to defeat a guy that just won't stay down. Right? And so I just simply decided, I'm dyslexic. I don't read well. I reverse letters and numbers and words. And very early on, I just detested reading because it was just so incredibly hard. But I became a pretty competent reader. I read very slowly still. But it sort of taught me the discipline of I'm going to have to work harder than everybody else if I would succeed at it. Because the teachers, they weren't ugly. They just thought I wasn't paying attention. They thought I was not that smart. Like we were talking about, when I was a kid until I was 7, the whole world looked like those blurry lights to me because I needed glasses. I have terrible vision. And so I think I ended up being Steve Trash, and I think this is partially true. Actually, maybe it's completely true. I ended up being Steve Trash because I see the world in a very different way than like your average normal person sees it. And what better person to introduce good ideas than a magician? Because that is what magicians do. They manipulate perception. So I'm constantly looking at perception and going, what's wrong with this perception? And that's why I come back culturally, and I think we are teaching children the wrong lessons because we are allowing an incorrect perception of the world to be the through line of the story of your life. That money's the most important thing in the world. No, it's not the most important thing in the world. Love is the most important thing in the world. How does that love manifest itself? Well, love manifests itself by being kind and by being compassionate and by being helpful and, frankly, being strong. Love is strength. Love is not weakness. People make the mistake of believing that it's actually weakness, and they miss the point. They don't even understand it. They don't get the magic trick. They don't get it. And I sort of get it. And so I think what I'm fighting for in really subtle ways, we're going way more in depth than I would ever with children. I would never, there's no reason. They don't care. They just want to love Steve Trash, love what Steve Trash does, right? And so what I deliver is all of this other stuff that comes through the package of a man in a really cool tall hat that does amazing magic tricks and brings them little dopamine hits of joy. That's what I'm shooting for.
I love that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you just pulled my cord, didn't you? Yeah, well, none of that's a lie either. It's absolutely, I have enough ego. There are no rock stars in the world that are amazing. Bill Gates and people like that. Elon Musk is a hero of mine. You can't be as successful as him if you don't think you have something, right? And, I obviously think I have something, and I'm willing to try to close that gap. Just whatever the gap is. And fine, if I don't get to where I think I was supposed to be, fine. I worked as hard as I possibly could, maybe even sometimes harder. because I think sometimes I actually reach for the stars. I think I actually do just reach out there and I go, trying to get it. And, my wife has taught me it's the journey. I'm not real good at the journey, I'm more destination kind of guy, But I've learned and I'm better at the journey now, which is why I really enjoy my dog, my wife, and my front porch a lot more than I used to. And I pretty much enjoyed them all along. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love you talking about closing that gap and like this is the end of your life, and closing that up.
Yeah.
See what that's like.
Go, well, my nephew is quite smart, and so is my grandson. My grandson, he's like really, really, really smart. And I said, listen, Caleb, you're smarter than probably everybody in your school, maybe even other schools where you live. You did nothing for that. God gave you that. That's a gift. You didn't do anything. The books that you read, that's something. Who you are as a human being, that's something. How you treat people that weren't given the same gifts that you were given, that's really something. Because your intelligence is just a bestowment. That's an endowment that you got. And God sort of said, I'm going to make you totally awesome. What are you going to do with your awesomeness? Right? And if you take that really brilliant intelligence and do something really magical with it, that's a worthwhile thing to do with your intelligence. But if you're looking down on people because they're not as sharp as you, well, that makes you kind of stupid, right? Because you're not doing anything with that great intelligence that you have, because they can't help the fact that, they're not the sharpest tool in the toolbox, And he got that message, actually. It was pretty good, I was pretty proud of him. He's a wonderful kid, and he got that message. He's like, okay, I understand that. So, all right, do we want to, I honestly think I'm happy. I think we've captured what we set out to capture. Teddy, this is extra. This is bonus. I like it, and Wes made an enormous mistake of asking me to begin talking about myself because I've chattered on for the last 30 minutes.
Totally out there. As Steve says, he doesn't like talking about it.
Unless it's on camera.
Yeah, right.
And then all of a sudden it's like a magic fist.
Whatever, as long as you're happy. Okay.
I think we should stick a fork in it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a martini. It was beautiful. Martini.
Well done.
Hey, which apple boxes are yours and which are mine?